The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Now, few issues are as polarizing in the tri-state as the streetcar, but it is a small part of the transportation issues the mayor of Cincinnati deals with, of course, on a regular basis. Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation with Cincinnati mayoral candidate Rob Richardson. Joining us for this segment is WCPO Transportation Development reporter Pat LaFleur as well. Thank you both for joining us again.
Thank you, Craig.
So this past week, there have been some headlines with the streetcar. Let's face it, they're on-time issues, signage issues, things that need to be fixed. Pat?
That's right. So, Mr. Richardson, I guess I'm curious. Your opponent, Mr. Cranley, has been very vocal about how he would have rather spent that $150 million repairing roads throughout Cincinnati's neighborhoods. Under your administration, how would you work to balance, well, first, do you think that the streetcar should be expanded? Is it something we need to invest more money in? And if so, how can we balance, road needs versus increased public transit?
I want to back up. I think that wasn't a totally, when I put that statement in context, the city didn't spend $150 million on a streetcar. A lot of that was federal money, and it's important to know that had we not gone forward with that project, we would have just sent back millions and millions and millions of dollars of federal money. So that's really, really important that the taxpayers don't think that the city of Cincinnati footed $150 million. So I want to make sure we get that straightened out first. The second point is we really need to have a broader conversation beyond the streetcar. Here's the thing. The incumbent mayor made his whole last campaign about stopping and ending the streetcar. And he said we would be in financial ruin if we had a streetcar almost, right? We have a streetcar. And so now it's the responsibility of a mayor to figure out how to make sure it's successful. And I think, unfortunately, the incumbent mayor has been a cheerleader for failure, and I think the other incumbent council member hasn't necessarily figured out how to have a solution to bring us forward and really make sure that we're engaging the community in a larger vision. So before we even talk about another stage of streetcar, I think we have to have leadership that is actually wants the first phase to actually make sure it succeed. I think we have an incumbent mayor that doesn't that really looks forward to every opportunity to make it fail. And so the project can't succeed with the leadership that wants it to fail.
What would your plan be then to make sure it succeeds?
My plan is to make sure I manage it correctly. The incumbent mayor is in charge of the management. If there's anyone to blame, it's the mayor. After a while, you can't blame a prior administration when you've been in office for almost 4 years asking for another term. My plan would be to engage in a larger vision for transportation. Transportation is about two things. The first and foremost is about connecting people to jobs. And we have to have a comprehensive plan where we work to really look at updating our bus system, which is horribly behind, that we have to invest in. And then secondly, it's about economic development. If we want to be a city of the 21st century, we can't have a 20th century infrastructure. Currently, we have that, and it's because we have incumbents that like to major in minor arguments. They're not having conversations about really taking us to the next level. They're about minor arguments just for political show.
Now, I'm also curious how you see these issues playing a role in this mayoral election. How are you going to use these sorts of issues to differentiate yourself from your opponents?
Well, we're going to use these issues because we're actually going to talk about a vision instead of focusing on petty arguments. I really think the voters want to see a real plan for economic development and transportation that's focused on the future. It is not focused on petty fights. That's pretty much what we've been focused on. The incumbents have found a reason to argue about things even when they agree. And I think voters are tired of that. I think it's time for us to figure out a great transportation plan that can make us more economically competitive, and we can get more jobs to people, we can get them to where they need to go, and we can lead the nation in a great transportation infrastructure. But we can't do that focusing on these petty battles.
I know this will sound a little odd, but a yes or no answer, the 1 cent tax, the $1 billion they're asking for to improve the metro system, would you agree with the tax to fund that?
This is what I'd say, because I want to look at the plan further, and when I'm mayor, I would like to have input on what our broader plan is. But eventually, there's going to have to be some investment in our infrastructure if we want to be competitive. So making investment is a part of what we need to do, but we need to engage the community in that conversation. And I don't think it'll take 10 years to do that, but right. I do think we have to do it in a way that's intentional. I don't think we've done that with transportation projects, and that's part of the resistance.
Taxpayers are going to have to pony up at some point. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you want to have a competitive workforce, you want to have a competitive transportation system. But before we ask them to do that, we have to engage them, show them what the real plan is, sit down, and really develop a plan. I don't think that's been done.
Okay. All right. This Week in Cincinnati will be right back.